Hey everyone, this is Nico Earnshaw from the Decentraland Foundation, and in this video we're going to take a quick look at how you can use smart items to make your scenes interactive with minimal effort. So in a previous video we took a look at how you can use the editor in general, how you can position items from all of these asset packs, but there's one special asset pack called Smart Items here that includes some items which are special. These are interactive and they come with behaviors that you can carry out by default, or you can also configure them in very profound ways. So let's start with something easy. Let's add a door. This door happens to match this door frame very well, so we can just position it here and you can see that it is rotated 90 degrees, so maybe a good way to adjust it properly is to set the rotation here by hand. And besides the door, let's add something else simple. Let's add a treasure chest. Just going with the whole fantasy theme. And I don't really need to configure anything about them. You should be able to interact with them as they come out of the box. So let's now open a preview of our scene and check out how they behave without having set up anything about how these are configured. We'll later see that you can do a lot more than that. So initially I can just open the door by pressing E or close it. You can toggle between the two positions, and the same applies to the chest. Also open it or close it. I see that I should have raised the chest slightly so that the grass isn't growing inside the chest as well. I can easily adjust that by raising it just a tiny bit. So let's dive into the settings offered by the door. Switch this out to make it easier to read. So door lets me display some hover text, so whenever I'm pointing my cursor at it, I'm gonna see this text as a hint telling me what I'm able to do. And the interaction with it is with the primary button, which in a keyboard is with the E key. I can change this to, for example, use the mouse button, or use F, which is the secondary, or yeah, there's a number of other options, but the default is to use the E. And what's more interesting is to see what happens when I click on the door. So in this case, the default behavior is that when the door is clicked, the door opens or closed. Let's mess around with this a bit more. Let's add a button. Let's place this button right next to the door. And now this button doesn't really do much on its own. If I were to try my scene out with the button as is, I'm going to be able to click on the button. I'm going to hear a click sound. It's going to do a little animation, but we're not really doing anything until we tell it to do something. So here in the button's configuration, all I can do is tell it to do something. I can assign an action to the button when it's clicked. And now in this drop down, I can see only the items that are smart in my scene. So in this case, I can either do something on the button itself, or I can do something on the door or the chest that I just added. So let's pick the door and let's pick open or close. And just like that, just like that, I can use my button to open or close the door. Let's check it out. Click on the button, there we go. Click it again, it will toggle between opened and closed. Now, say I'm making some kind of a challenging, game where the button is not that obviously in sight, and I want it to be a challenge to open the door. I can remove the default behavior on the door so that when I click on the door, nothing really happens. So with that, I am forced to find the button, and maybe I can even change this hover hint and say locked, or maybe something like this door opens elsewhere, just to hint to the player that they're gonna have to go around and find the button. So besides buttons, there's also levers, which work in a similar way. So for example, I can place this one. Let's get rid of our button for now. And I can set two different actions on the lever, when it's activated and when it's deactivated. So when it's activated, let's make the door open, and when it's deactivated, let's make that same door close. And great, with that we will have a very similar behavior as we did with the button. So now when I activate the lever, the door opens and closes. Another interesting thing is that I am not limited to just carrying out one action whenever I pull on the lever. I can add as many actions as I want. I can remove them as well from here. So for example, I could also open the chest at the same time as the door opens. And maybe I don't want to close the chest, or yeah, maybe I do. So with that, I will, whenever I pull the lever, I will open both the door and the chest. Let's look at another more interesting item. Let's take a look at the trigger area item, which is this orange volume you have here. Now the trigger area item is it's invisible to the player, so you will only see it as an orange volume when you're inside the edit mode. But whenever the player steps into the area of this trigger area, it is able to carry out actions. So, for example, you can carry out something whenever a player enters the area, and also optionally whenever the player leaves the area. In this case, let's make it so that whenever the player goes into the cube, the door opens, and if we stretch it out the right way so that, sorry about that. If we stretch it out this way and just the right amount, we would be able to make sure that the door stays open while the player is going through the door and it doesn't slam shut in their face, and that it, opens both ways, not just when going in, but also when going out. Let's make it taller also, just in case. And so when the player enters the area, let's make it so that door is open, and when the player leaves the area, let's add an action so that the door gets closed. Great, let's check this out again. So now if I walk up to my door, it opens, and if I walk away, it closes. I'm able to walk right through it, and then it closes. Great. So let's look at another smart item, in this case the text. So let's hint to the player that the door will open when they approach it. It's because it might not be obvious from the start. So this is a text smart item. I can let's rotate it 90 degrees again. There we go. And there it's legible from the outside. Here in the text we can define whatever string we want. So you'll see that the text is now spilling out of the size of this this text area, but we can just make the width more, and that would be good enough. We can also, by the way, change a lot of other things like the font size, the color. I can pick basic colors, or I can also pick a specific hue. There's a whole editor here to pick exactly what I want, or I can paste hex code if I were to know anything about design at all. So yeah, that's the text item. Next, let's look at the platforms. There's a whole bunch of these which let you move both up and down, or backwards and forwards. So in this case, let's go with this one that kind of matches the style of the scene, and let's place it here so that we can be taken up to this little platform here. So if I open up the platform settings, you'll see that there's a bunch of settings I can change. I can change the height. In this case, probably 10 meters up is a bit too much. Maybe I'll go with just 4. I can also change the duration so that it takes 5 seconds to go up there. Maybe I want a little bit less. I can also drag this, maybe 3. I can change the auto start and loop properties. So instead of having it move on its own from the very start and keep going, maybe I want to just move back and forth with using a lever or something else. In this case, let's just leave it like that and check it out. So by the way, here's my text that I had before, and here's the platform. It goes up. It seems like 4 meters was just the right height, and thanks to this I can now reach this part of the scene that was previously inaccessible. Great. The final item I want to show you is the video player smart item, which is here. Now, this item, as the name suggests, allows you to play videos. It's basically a surface where you can paste a URL and see a video play out. Now, an important disclaimer is that You can't just paste any YouTube video clip here. Unfortunately, with YouTube and other similar platforms tend to be quite restrictive about where you can see their content. There is a whole section in our docs. If you go to docs.decentraland.org and for the media play video section, there's a whole explainer about what you can do, and there's different options. There's also tips about how you can stream from OBS and the ideal optimal settings for using OBS in Decentraland. But for now, I'm gonna copy and paste this URL for a Vimeo clip, and let's use that. And also I want the video to start playing from the start. I could also trigger this through some action, or I can also set the video to loop so it keeps playing as long as I'm in the scene. So with that, let's check it out. So here we go. Here's our video playing a reel of stuff that you can do in Decentraland. So yeah, thanks for watching. In a following video, we're gonna look at the more advanced ways you can configure these same smart items. So we so far only looked at the surface and all of the basic configurations, but there's way more that you can do with these same smart items, and there's a lot more of them also to check out. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.